Rashid. Thank you for coming here tonight. First of all, I would like to give a quick brief info about why we're here tonight. Since the self-immolation as a sign of protest by the 21-year-old monk named Pinzo Jarusan, the situation in Tibet has worsened. Following the self-immolation, hundreds of monks from Kirti Monastery in Ngaba County and the other local residents staged another protest. On April 20th of this year, at least 800 Chinese government officials arrived at Kirti Monastery in Ngaba, Tibet, to relaunch rigorous sessions of patriotic re-education campaign. During the sessions, monks were tied to trees and severely beaten and threatened, stating, "We have the power to crush all of you in a minute if you don't obey us." On April 21st, Chinese forces arrested 300 monks from Kirti Monastery and forced into military trucks and taken to unknown location. Two elderly Tibetans died after being beaten to death by Chinese police when they formed a human chain to try and stop the monks from being taken away. Since May 2nd, 2 additional Kirti monks have been detained for their participation in protests. It is reported that there is a strong military presence in Ngaba, and Chinese military have tightened their presence around the monastery. To shine the spotlight on human rights violation that the CCP, Chinese Communist Party, is committing, the Tibetan Youth Congress in India has started an indefinite hunger strike since April 25th. The hunger strikers in India are on the 20th day without food, and the latest reports show that temperature in Delhi, the capital of India, is soaring and the health of the hunger strikers are deteriorating. Their will and determination has inspired all the North American Regional Tibetan Youth Congress to show solidarity. Therefore, we are here tonight to show a global solidarity hunger strike for 24 hours. And most of the other chapters are going to start their relay hunger strike this Monday. We want the people in Ngaba County in Tibet to know that we will not rest until the justice has been served, and we will not let Pinzo Jarusan's sacrifice in vain. And to the 3 TYC, Tibetan Youth Congress executive members on their 20th day without food, we want to let you know that we are with you and support your sacrifice. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Nongila. So next we have SFR2IC Vice President Sugila. Sugila, please, to the stage.
Hi everyone. I'm just going to read an essay that was written by Wisurla. She's a poet in China. So the essay is called "Remembering the Young Monk Pinzo, who died from self-immolation." On March 16th, 2008, when monk and lay people took to the streets in Amdal Nava and raised their voices in protest, among the many people that were killed by the state machinery were pregnant women, a 5-year-old child, and also a 16-year-old female middle school children, Phunduto. Thus, 3 years later on this day, many Tibetans commemorate the victims by lighting butter lamps in temples and at home. Pinzo, a monk from Kirti Monastery, commemorated by setting himself on fire. On a sunny afternoon, he left the monastery that was under close surveillance by military police and walked on his own to the end of the sun-drenched road. Here, he suddenly went up in flames. From within the fireball, he shouted, "Let His Holiness return! Tibet must be free, and long live the Dalai Lama!" People gathered around, watching in a state of shock. The entire street filled up with heavily armed, special, ordinary, armed and plainclothed police forces, using clubs, ferociously striking at Pinzok. Was this to extinguish the fire or to beat him? On March 17th at 3 a.m., Pinzok passed away. He was only 20 years old, born in 1991. His parents were from the second village in Meurma Township, Naba County. Two Buddhist monks from Kirti Monastery. One lived somewhere inside Tibet and the other had crossed the snow mountains to escape to Dharamsala last year. Myself and other friends interviewed them. They said that when they saw the military police beating Pinzol, some monks and ordinary people rushed over and lifted Pinzol up to take him to the hospital next to the temple, but it was already past the hours, so they once more took him up and carried him to the monk's residence, where his parents burst into tears of shock. They took him to the county hospital, but people there refused to take him in. To save his life, the people finally decided to pass Pinzol over to the authorities, begging them to save his life. That was around 5 p.m. Very late that evening, the hospital was finally granted permission to take Pinzol in and save his life. But by then, there was no hope left. Early in the morning, at around 3 a.m., he passed away. Yet, the hospital refused to give his remains back to his relatives until 4 p.m. It is said that government officials came in to inspect his body. The monastery was told to complete any funeral activities before 8 a.m. on March 18th. They were not authorized to keep the body. Pinzok's tragic death was reported by various foreign media. Even the Chinese government's news agency, Xinhua, had to admit that this event had occurred. But initial reports referred to the victim as a 24-year-old Pinzok. Later on, it was said that he was a 16-year-old teenage suffering from epilepsy. According to Xinhua, the police patrolling in the area promptly extinguished the fire and quickly took Pinzok to the hospital for immediate medical treatment. Yet, despite his heavy wounds, a gang of monks from Kirti Monastery who entertained ulterior motives forcibly took Pinzok out of the hospital and hid him inside the monastery. And only after continuous